over the past year or so, the Gnome Foundation has been through a fairly rocky phase, bringing on a new Executive Director, Holly Millon, in October of last year, who then stepped down from the position in July of this year, not even making an entire year. Now, her public reason is wanting to pursue a PhD in psychology and focusing on her own things, which totally understandable. I would be very surprised if the private reason didn't heavily involve a lot of the backlash she was getting from certain parts of the Linux space. In my opinion, a lot of the backlash being completely unjustified, focusing on things that didn't have anything to do with the work she was doing. Now, there are completely valid things to criticize her about with the work that she was doing, or wasn't doing, depending on how you want to frame it, but that was not the bulk of the discussion. There has also been a very long problem of unmet funding goals and overshot spending targets, which Holly did help to rein in. Don't get me wrong, and she did bring in new funding. That is something that absolutely did happen. And then there was the issue with Sonny Piers, a member of the board who was removed from the board with no public explanation, not to the general public, not to Gnome Foundation members, who were left completely confused about what happened. I have zero doubt in my mind that both the board and Gnome fans are looking for some level of stability coming into the end of the year and then going into next year. Now, between Holly and whoever becomes the next executive director, Richard Lauterer took up the position as interim executive director, and I don't think anybody would have complained if he was permanently in this position. He's an organizer of Sustain OSS and hosts their podcast. He previously worked at the Open Source Initiative and the Open Source Collective. He has 2 master's degrees and is working towards a PhD in Comp Sci and has tons of involvement in random other little one-off things here and there involving fundraising, involving FOSS, and honestly, I don't think you could have asked for a more qualified person to lead a FOSS Foundation. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still entirely possible that he is going to be put permanently in that position. However, just a few days ago, the Gnome Foundation opened search for a new executive director having an open job application. Now, this was announced on September 13th. I didn't actually see it when it was announced. This closes on the 20th, so there's still a couple of days left. If you have the qualifications, if this is a thing that you think you can do, you can still apply. I don't know why they had the position open for a week. I have a feeling most people are probably not even going to hear about it, but hey, now you're going to find out. And honestly, here's the fun thing. Because there's not going to be that many people that hear about this, if you're in a position where you have the qualifications, and maybe not even the full qualifications, but you think you know what you're doing, you think that this is something you actually want to do, honestly, it's entirely possible you could get the position, so, stick around to find out what you need to know. So, as the GNOME Executive Director, your key responsibilities will be strategic leadership and advocacy. Develop and articulate a compelling vision for GNOME and free software in personal computing. Serve as the primary advocate and evangelist for GNOME, effectively communicating its value and impact to diverse audiences. Represent the GNOME Foundation to the press, partners, advisory board, sponsors, and the community. From everything I understand, Holly did a great job with the partners, advisory board, and sponsors. I have never had a single interaction that I didn't start myself with a member of the GNOME Foundation. Have you seen Holly show up in podcast appearances or interviews, or have there been press releases regarding new GNOME features? I certainly haven't seen them, and if you know about them, please let me know. I don't think Holly did a single interview or a single podcast appearance during her entire tenure, and look, I can't even imagine her as the primary advocate and evangelist for GNOME. And I don't think the executive director necessarily needs to do this, but the foundation needs to reach out to people that have an audience, reach out to journalists, reach out to YouTubers, and I don't just mean me, like Nick, Nico, DistroTube, anybody else, the Linux cast, anybody else out there that has an audience. why are you not using these people to talk about what your desktop does? And I think System 76 does a really good job here, and I think they're the only ones that do a good job. I think KDE is doing great work as well, but again, why are things like press releases not being sent out to journalists and YouTubers? This would be such a simple thing to do that would massively increase the reach of this software. And very importantly, I don't just mean sending it to GNOME people. You don't need to tell GNOME people that things are happening in GNOME. They know about it, they're GNOME people. You want people outside the desktop that have different audiences that can actually reach out to new people. Anyway, before I turn that into an entire video, fundraising and resource management. Lead fundraising efforts to support GNOME's development, outreach, and educational initiatives. Develop and manage relationships with donors, grant makers, and corporate sponsors. Oversee the allocation of resources to maximize the impact of GNOME's mission. So the Sovereign Tech Fund investment actually happened under Holly's tenure. It is something that she set up. Clearly, she did a very good job there, and this is the part that, from my understanding, she did exceptionally well on. It's just when she started, they weren't exactly in a great position to work with. Community engagement. Work closely with the GNOME community, including developers, contributors, and volunteers. Foster a collaborative environment that encourages community participation and growth. Ensure effective communication between the Foundation and the broader GNOME community. Well, do we need to talk about the Sonny Piers situation again? Again, a member of the GNOME Foundation board, and these members are voted in by GNOME Foundation members, being removed with zero public explanation. Operational management. Oversee the day-to-day operations of the Foundation, including staff management and program delivery. Demonstrate agility in addressing operational issues as they arise. Ensure compliance with legal and regulatory requirements for non-profits. From everything I know, I don't think Holly did anything wildly illegal, so I think she did a perfectly fine job there. If you know anything that isn't public, please do reach out to me, because I would definitely like to know, but I don't know anything that went wrong there. Governance and board relations. Work closely with the board of directors to agree and implement the Foundation's strategic vision. Provide regular updates and reports to the board on the Foundation's activities and performance, and support the board in fulfilling its governance responsibilities. TLDR, run the Foundation and don't run it into the ground. Now, the only required skill that's actually like a hard, measurable set thing is 5+ years experience in non-profit or organizational management with a strong track record in program delivery and mission impact. The rest of this is the same sort of general fluff you would expect from, honestly, most sorts of management job applications. But I want to talk about some of the stuff in the preferred skills and experience. Obviously, you need to have experience with US nonprofits because it's a nonprofit based in the US, specifically California, but extensive use of and advocacy for free and open source software, existing relationships within the open source and technology nonprofit sectors, and background in technology-related fields or organizations. I have a feeling they have honestly learned a lot from bringing someone in who is not involved in this space, who has just got a background in general non-profit work. And there's nothing wrong with that if your goal is basically balancing the books. But I do think you need someone running a FOSS foundation to have a long, extensive history involving FOSS. Whether it's in other nonprofits or just generally involved in this space as a developer or various other things where you actually, have a long history using Linux, using GNOME, and all this sort of stuff. Now, being the executive director is not just like a volunteer position, so the compensation you get is fairly important. Now, the base salary is $120K to $150K, depending on experience. Now, this right here all of this right here, except this part, is the most American thing I have ever seen written. 30 days PTO, including federal holidays. Now, this is being described as like compensation. In Australia, this is the minimum legal requirement. I know in the US, you guys don't actually have a minimum requirement for this. Like, they can just give you 0 paid time off if they want to. A lot of jobs have it because a lot of other jobs provide it, so you kind of have to do it to be competitive. I think the rate's something like 80% of people have PTO in their contract, but the fact that it's just weird to me that that's like a benefit here. Comprehensive healthcare coverage for US applicants. Need I say more? All of the Australians and Europeans are laughing in chat right now. 401k retirement savings for US applicants with a basic safe harbor match. This is also a legal requirement in Australia, so yeah. But unlimited sick days, that is a nice bonus. So, do you have what it takes to become the Gnome Foundation Executive Director? Look, I don't know, there are some people in my audience that seem very qualified for random things, so it is entirely possible. If you happen to get the position, please let me know. I would love to know. And let's actually have some sort of relationship between YouTubers, journalists, and the Gnome Foundation. That would be a nice change. Again, I don't just mean me, I mean the whole space. But what do you think? Do you think they should just have the interim executive director take up the full position? Obviously, if he can, if he's too busy, that can't happen. Or do you think there is somebody else out there that should lead the foundation? I would love to know. So if you liked the video, go like the video. And if you really liked the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to the Vera Pay link in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
Like this.